Greg, I'd like to believe in God, and certainly the Western view of God is very much like a person, with intentions and feelings and thoughts and actions, and very much seems anthropomorphic, that we are building into God that which we are ourselves. And so, the question we have to ask is how can God be a person?
That's a very important question. The question of whether God can be a person is deeply important. It's actually a question about the place of persons in reality. Because we know persons exist. You're a person, I'm a person, and there are some elements of personhood in higher animals. There may be what we call extraterrestrial persons. And what place do these have in reality?
First of all, define for me as a philosopher a person.
Well, I think you did a fabulous job of what a person is. A person is an entity, a being, a substance that has certain capacities. And maybe there are no tight, necessary, and sufficient conditions, but there are some characteristic capacities of a person, such as intellect, acting for reasons, perhaps some moral preferences, or a moral nature of some kind, the ability to act and make a difference in the world. So these kinds of things capture, I think,
Okay,
what
so
we mean by
that's a person. And you said step one is that there are persons in the world.
That's right.
Now,
Yes.
many scientists would say yes, but that's a complete accident. That we just that was this trail of evolution. Go another way, we'd have something else.
That's exactly right. And that's a fundamental question about our value scheme, because it would be a very strange thing if persons were completely accidental, to fit that fact together with the fact that the things we care most about all connect to what it means to be a person.
All right, so let's agree for sure, without determining how they happened, that persons exist.
Right.
We'll give you that.
Right.
And where do you take me from there?
So then the question is, the fact that the Western tradition pictures God as a person, is that anthropomorphic, or is our existence of persons deomorphic? Are we reflections of God, or is the concept of God a reflection of human nature?
Okay, that's a fair question.
And I think that the tradition, the theological tradition, holds that human personhood and any other kind of created personhood there is a reflection of what God is like. And that makes the most sense out of our personhood.
Let's tease that apart.
Okay.
I totally agree with you that is the theological tradition.
Right.
But you know what? I don't care about that. I can give you a lot of theological traditions that's just a bunch of intellectual trash. Yeah. It doesn't make sense. It's all wrong. Mm-hmm. And I can't pick apart what of the theological tradition is right or wrong or indifferent, and that's irrelevant. So we're starting out here. I'm giving you that there are persons in the world today.
Right.
So how can you take me from that to the concept that God, if there is a God, the ground of all being, is some similar such thing?
Okay, this is how we'll do it, and I'll give you the framework. And the framework harkens back to what we would call the classical arguments for God's existence. And what's mostly not noticed about these arguments is that they all have two steps. We usually in philosophy classes only talk about the first step. And the first step is from something we observe to the existence of some being, such as a first cause, such as
the cosmological
argument, or a designer,
right,
something, or a moral nature.
Yeah.
The second part of the argument is from that thing, a first cause, a designer, to the concept of God as a person.
Yeah, and nobody talks about the second.
What's interesting is Aquinas gave 5 arguments for God's existence, for the first cause, in about 500 words, and then he spent 300 pages doing the second part. And it's not that theologians or theistic philosophers haven't spent time on that, but most of the attention is on the first part. So it's part of kind of the answer or the fulfillment of these classical arguments that the first cause, for example, is most likely has some of the elements of personhood.
So how are you getting me there, other than just stating it?
Suppose that God brought the universe into existence. So either
Suppose the first cause brought the...
Okay, suppose the first cause brought the universe into existence.
Now, you want to go to the second step and convince me that that first cause is a person.
Is a person.
Call it God. You can call God a non-person.
That's right.
But I want to, let's say person.
Right.
Go impersonal or personal.
Exactly.
We agree on it. I'll give you the cosmological argument, which means I've conceded there is a first cause.
Okay.
Now, what is that first cause?
So, why did the beginning of the universe happen when it did? So, usually when we ask about an event, why did it happen when it did? The answer is something like, because that's when all the conditions were present for the event to happen. But if the event we're talking about is the beginning of the universe, then whatever those conditions were, they were present from all eternity.
Beginning of time.
Beginning of time.
Yeah, okay.
Right? Either an atemporal view of eternity or an everlasting view of eternity. And the only kind of cause we know anything about that triggers something when all the conditions are already present is the will of a personal agent. So I'll often ask students to do this. Think about raising your hand, but don't do it. Now do it. And then, of course, they raise their hand. And why did you do it when you did? Because you willed to do it. And so so my argument here is an argument from analogy, that just like as persons, we initiate causal change through willing, that is a good explanation for why the universe, the first cause of the universe, triggered the whole thing when it did. So that's one line of thinking.
So basically what you do is make agency, the activity of a person, something very fundamental in the nature of reality.
Yes, and of course, if it turns out that God exists and God is a person, then agency is very fundamental in the nature of reality.